How's everybody doing? Good. We're still in the kind of limbo land of we don't know where to show up in person or show up online, and then we end up watching TV instead of joining or something. So glad to see you guys here. We'll just let people come in from. Was there people? A bunch of people outside still? No. Are all your buddies still out there drinking?
No, I think we.
I can go ahead.
It got too cold for them. Excuse me.
Just came for the free booze. That's good. That's a good number. Okay, so I'm sure there'll be some people floating in because I don't see Mark and a few of his friends who I know are here. So, but just in the interest of time, I'd like to get started. I'm really excited about tonight because most of you know Arturo because he shows up at our talks. He's our main sponsor for this lecture series for the last several years. We try and keep this going, so let me just do the lecture series announcements and then I'll talk about our speakers. So what we're going to hear about tonight, of course, is all the great stuff that's happening at the Houston Spaceport. I still remember the days when people didn't believe there was such a thing, so you're going to hear something different tonight. On March 24, we're going to have Andrew Abercrombie from NASA, and he's going to tell us about basically keeping astronauts safe, going to the moon and Mars. He's doing a lot of work with spacesuits and exoskeletons and so on. And then on April 14, we have Emma Lenhart talking about the Gateway project. That's the Lunar station. She's the program manager for it, so right there in the midst of it all.
Program control manager.
I beg your pardon. She's the program control manager. So we're really excited about those, and then of course we'll start thinking about the program for the fall as we continue. And again, I appreciate you coming out. I know it's kind of weird. It's still weird for us having this mix of things, but I appreciate you being here in person. I appreciate you being online. Again, tonight, Arturo, he's worried what I'm going to say about him. So Arturo, we were just talking. Arturo and I met 10 years ago when he came up to Rice to talk to me about this concept of this idea of a spaceport and how we try to bring the community together, and he was talking to a whole range of people. And since then, I think it's fair to say that we've become really good friends. We travel the world together. Arturo likes my hometown of Glasgow. He fits right in, so he's someone I've called the world's first Mexwegian. Arturo's a Mexican-American, and in Glasgow we're called Glaswegian. So you're in the presence of, as far as I know, the world's only Mexwegian. He also found out that he's 2% Scottish. So all the good stuff tonight will be the 2%. Anything that goes off, it'll be the other 98. So, but no, I think one of the things that you need to know about Arturo is he's the kind of unsung hero of everything that's going on at the spaceport. I give talks and people think about, the kind of stuff. Mario Diaz has got a big vision. He's the head of the aviation. He's the director of aviation for the city. You hear about Steve Altimas, as you were here the last time. All these companies that are doing things. The spaceport would not be where it is today or got started if it wasn't for the man you're about to hear from tonight. And so he's always been there to sort of make things happen. Let other people take the credit. Let other people claim that they started the conversation in the first place when they didn't. And he travels the world trying to promote the space business in Houston and to Houston. And so it's been a great privilege to know him. So, we haven't fallen out yet. Maybe occasionally on an airplane we might have an argument. But anyway, so I could go on and on about how great a guy he is. But the key thing is, what's happening, it's taken a while, but what's happening in Houston, all the conversations we're having at the Greater Houston Partnership are essentially centered around what's happening at the spaceport. And with that, Arturo, I'm going to give the stage to you, and you can tell us about some of the great things that are going. So please join me in welcoming Arturo. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, that's what I want to say. Thank you to the people online. Appreciate your presence and taking time to listen to what we've been doing, around the Houston Spaceport project. I just heard it again. David said it seems like a long time. Well, it's been really 9.5, 10 years since we started this spaceport development, right? And as you well know, in any terms, especially when you're talking about government, right? Things take really, really long, right? Well, in my opinion, we have done a lot, and I believe that you will, by the time, we finish this stuff, you will agree that a lot has happened in Houston. And we have now been able, with the support of the federal government, the state government, the local government, the community, especially the community, we have been able to advance what many thought was just a dream, something that was not going to happen, something that didn't make sense. And, all the opposite has been now proven, right? From what used to be a concept. Now we have some very serious investment going on in Houston that is having a direct impact in each one of us, one way or the other, because of, again, the jobs, the taxes, the goods that are being consumed, whatever is happening around the spaceport is having, again, a direct impact, and that's what we've been looking for. But I also have to say, and now it's going to be like a competition, I want to say thanks to David Alexander. Yes, about 10 years ago, I came to Rise Space Institute trying to talk about the plans that we had and get some feedback regarding, the plans that we had. At the time, again, the vision was one that was a little bit blurry. Does it make sense? Or doesn't, right? We had done by then the homework of feasibility and economic studies that clearly indicated that this was a development that Houston could not pass over, right? And I am glad, again, that the city of Houston made the decision to move forward with this development, because today, we are in a much better position than we were back in 2012. You'll see what I'm talking about. Let me get started with some of the information that I have here, and we'll hopefully have some time at the end for some questions. But basically,
sorry. Can you announce that for the people online that if they want to put a question into the Q&A or the chat, I'm monitoring that. So I'm sorry, I meant to say.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. For the people online, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them on this doc. Here we have David Alexander, who's monitoring the questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you. So who we are, again, this is stuff that most likely, and well, let me just get back to you from this, this select group that I have in front of me. Who really knows what's going on at the Houston Spaceport? Can you raise your hand? You haven't heard much about it, right? That is so I guess typical, right? For some reason, although this being such a large development, it's just not catching the attention of everybody. It's just something that we have seen since the beginning. But again, it is something that by the end of this presentation, I think you're going to be paying a little bit more attention. Who we are, we're the Department of Aviation for the City of Houston. We are Ellington Airport, Bush Airport, and Hobby Airport, all three major airports of the City of Houston. Bush, obviously, serving a very, very defined role, moving international and domestic passengers to and from Houston. Hobby now lately, also an international airport, a smaller hub airport, but also moving commercial airlines. Ellington has or is the oldest airport in Houston, built in 1917, when the word the word airport didn't exist. That's why you know, when you think about it, that's why this place was originally called Ellington Field. It was because in 1917, there was no airports. And I always like to make that statement because it's the same, you know, the same situation that we have today. Spaceport, what is in a spaceport, right? There's still people that are questioning what is in a spaceport. I'll tell you the vision that we took and building our spaceport. But again, spaceport is our gate to the space business. That's how we see it. Since 2012, when we started our vision, we came about with a pretty clear mission. Rather than focusing in operations, right, the launching of rockets, which, by the way, Houston Spaceport won't be doing. We are licensed by the Federal Aviation Administration as a horizontal site. In other words, we are capable of supporting operations the like of Virgin Galactic, those carriers that pretty much take off as a jet plane, right? And then carry their spacecraft out to whatever point to take off to space. But we are not, or right now, we don't have in our plans to ever do vertical takeoffs. That's the kind of spaceport that we are. Anyhow, as we were looking at this situation, we determined that seeing what was going on at the time with the developers like Virgin Galactic, X-Core, Rocket Plane, and others, we could not build our business case around operations. Operations is great. You know, we will welcome, we want them to come to Houston, but we have no control over when an operator is able to fly. We are about creating infrastructure, about creating the infrastructure that will benefit our region, right? And so our mission and vision at the time was one that was built, saying that we were going to build a cluster of aviation and aerospace companies here in Houston at the spaceport that would help us, would lead us in the transition that the federal government wanted to make at that time from what used to be just a federal program, right? Just NASA people were going off to space into a commercial program, right? So we decided that we were going to do that, and that has been the focus. At first, the experts, some thought that you know, we were kind of a little bit far off with our thoughts, right? Again, operations have been the focus of many spaceports. They think about launching and recovering spacecraft. They were missing one big part, and that was the economic, right? The commercial part of the spaceport. By commercializing space, all this infrastructure that we're building across the U.S. Requires to become at one point self-sustainable. The federal government doesn't want to continue to be paying for spaceports, right? That's why, you know, we decided to go ahead and turn this into a commercial operation. So what we were able to define back there, operations was not going to be enough for us to be able to recover the cost that we have to incur, you know, in building a spaceport. So again, the focus was into turning this into a cluster of aviation and aerospace companies. Many things have happened. Again, we have now clearly positioned the Houston Spaceport as a center of economic development that is having a direct impact. Nothing pleases me more than being able to say that today I can tell you San Jacinto College, with their workforce training center that they have created at the spaceport, have young students coming out of their certificate programs, working with companies like Axiom, with companies like Intuitive Machines, building components that are going to pretty soon, within this year, be in space, right? This is a big thing happening in Houston, and again, it is so because we were able to come together and push this process ahead. The approach that we took to do all this, yes, it's not easy. We wanted to, you know, to make sure that we became an attractive location for companies. And so we created an attractive tenant package and incentives for the people that we're working with, right? We identify all the capabilities and infrastructure that we have already in place. And we've been working really, really close with a number of organizations, universities included, of course, the economic development offices in Houston and the public to move our project. This is a very powerful statement. In less than 6 years, we were licensed in 2015 as the 10th commercial spaceport. In less than 6 years, we went from being just an idea, right, to actively now supporting low Earth orbit, planetary, and lunar operations. And you will see confirmation of what I'm stating here, right? Something that again, people thought was not going to be possible, right? It is happening in a very short period of time. Again, 6 years might seem like a long time, but it really is not. It's not when you need to build a number of facilities that are necessary to support the business and operations. The first step that we took, this was back in 2016. Again, Houston, in my opinion, was suffering a little bit. You might remember, what was it, 2010, 2011, when the federal government canceled the Constellation program, right, that had a deep impact here in Houston, equal to about 3,000 layoffs back then, I think, just about. And in 2016, the Boeing company, again, was moving out of the what's now the Houston Spaceport and leaving this facility, a 53,000 square foot facility that had all the components that are necessary for spacecraft development and for many other jobs available. We went ahead and pushed for the acquisition of this facility. At the time, we bought this first building for a little bit under $7 million. When we did the analysis, that building's replacement value was just about $12 million, right? We took it to the City Council of Houston, and it was approved. We bought it, and again, with a little bit of hesitance from some, with a lot of support from many others, we were able to acquire it. And today this is the place where two big developments are taking place, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what's happening there, right? We went ahead and leveraged all the assets that we had at Ellington Airport, started promoting that package, putting it in front of companies, and again, is making a lot of sense in their minds. Companies are responding, and a lot of really good things are happening. Here, this illustration shows the plans that we use to license the Houston Spaceport. It's a typical route that a Virgin Galactic spacecraft would take to do the type of flight that you've been seeing on the news in the past few months, right? We presented that to FAA. We were able to establish all the processes, the procedures that are necessary for the operation, a flight path, the loading areas for the oxidizers, the fuels that are necessary, the storage, all that is already in place, and that's how we were able to get our license. We continued with investment that made a lot of sense for the development that we had in the Houston Spaceport. We had, again, an airport that had very old infrastructure. One of them was the tower. The tower was a facility that was affected by one of the hurricanes. I think it was back in 2009. I can't remember the name of that hurricane, but anyhow, it was not in good shape. That tower, if we were to lose it, we also could have lost a big portion of the military activity that we have today at Ellington, right? So we worked with the state, we worked with the federal government, and we were able to procure the resources that we needed to build this tower. This tower is very special because besides supporting aviation, which was key to us today, right? we built this tower with a space, physical space and connectivity to be able to support mission control should one of the operators one day, whenever they're ready to fly from Houston, decides to do so, they can use this facility. So this was the first one of its kind. Cecil Airport in Florida has built the second one, and so I think that's going to be the new trends that you're gonna be seeing. Again, this just talks about collaboration and what we need to what we have done to incentivize our partners, right? Companies began to see this compelling business case for operating at Ellington, and here's where we are today, right? I talk about as we speak today, we have reached that tipping point that is making the difference for everybody, for us especially as the first I guess investor, right? We have put a lot of resources, a lot of money into this development, right? And so we wanted to make sure that this was going to work. Companies are seeing it, and really good things are happening. Again, about the spaceport, things that nobody thought were going to be possible are happening. This engine that you see here in this slide is Intuitive Machines. They've been doing now for the past 2 years rocket engine testing at one of the facilities that we have in the airfield. This engine is being built to support the operation that they will be conducting using their Nova-C lunar lander, which is an autonomous system, an unmanned system that is scheduled to go to the moon within the next 3 to 6 months. This is, again, to me, a very, very, I guess, motive to celebrate, right? It gives me a big sense of pride again, because this is the kind of stuff that nobody thought was going to be happening in Houston. We've been doing the work with companies in the aerospace business for many, many years, but mainly it's all about engineering. It's mainly about, creating the drawings, and then when it comes time to build, most of the time, we take that out of Houston, and we go build it somewhere else. We wanted that piece of the business to stay here in Houston, and it is happening. In front of you, some of you who were here last November probably met Steve Altimas. He is the CEO for that company, Intuitive Machines. Amongst the business that he is conducting at the Houston Spaceport is the construction of unmanned drones, unmanned aviation systems, right? Drones that are being built at the Houston Spaceport. Again, creating a good amount of jobs, right? A good amount of economic activity. Most importantly, again, this is a Nova-C lunar lander. This is the vehicle that he was contracted to build by NASA about 2 or 3 years ago. They have built this lander here in Houston again, with the help of a number of people, of course, right? But to me, again, to see the young people, the students of Houston working in this project is just something that it's very, very positive. Manufacturing of stainless steel additive and subtracting manufacturing is taking place at the spaceport. Again, activities that we didn't have here. And shifting gears a little bit, as we were building our spaceport, one of the elements that we identified as crucial for the success of the development that we are building here in Houston was of course, the educational, the training part of the program. In 2017 or 18, we were one of 36 companies bidding for the business that Blue Origin was putting out for the construction of the BE-4 engine. We were very excited, right? We were very determined to get that business because we thought Houston was the place to do that, right? And so together, again, with a number of people in the community, We put together this plan to address their bid, right? From 36 people, 36 cities, we made it come to the final two, right? The final two locations. That day, I remember I was sitting in a meeting room talking to the company. They were going to make the announcement, right? I have to tell you, until that very moment, I thought that we had it, right? I said, it is our business now, right? There's no way that they're not gonna come our direction. Why? Because again, we presented a very attractive package that included a number of benefits for the company. We were very surprised. The answer was we have elected to actually go to Huntsville, Alabama, right? That's where we're going to go and build our B-4 engine. I was so disappointed. We were all so disappointed. And so we took it. A few weeks later, had the chance to get some feedback from the company and from Huntsville, right? And the reason why we lost that bid, it wasn't money, it wasn't asset, it wasn't all the great resources that we have in a city like Houston. It was all connected to the human element, right? The resources, the people being trained, the people having the degrees that are necessary to support a strong force. And you say, well, wait a second. No, Houston is really strong. One of the talking points that we have is Houston has more engineers per capita than any city in the U.S., right? Well, yeah, but really, it's a lot right now in oil and gas, right? But they've been doing that point. So we lost to Rocket City, right? Just like we're Space City, Rocket City is the nickname of Huntsville. We lost it, and at that time we said, this is it. We're not gonna allow for that to happen. That's when we went deeper in talking with universities. We've been working really close with David Alexander, his Rice Space Institute, San Jacinto College. It was the institution that we needed to be able to turn around technical workers, right? And we worked very closely with Dr. Brenda Hillier, the chancellor of San Jacinto, and she made a commitment. She went in, and today, the facility that I showed you, that what we call the Houston Aerospace Support Center, that first facility that we acquired, that's where San Jacinto College has the ESH, they call it. That's their training center. There's a number of people, a number of students that are that have been trained, that are being trained today, and I guess I stop also to make or highlight this point. Today, as we speak, there's a number of, of scholarships available for those interested in getting some sort of certification for a number of different areas where they can work in space business, right? So if you know of somebody, if you are that person, right, you're welcome to check in with San Jacinto. There's a lot of really good things happening, and I think you could get your training. This is in place, and this has helped us to build our offering here in Houston to make us even more attractive now to companies, right? We've been investing in the Houston Spaceport in a very diligent manner. We have not in any manner misspent the resources that we have in the spaceport. Today I stand in front of you, and I can tell you, none of your taxes, none of the money that you pay to the city have been used to build this spaceport. We are an organization that produces its own revenues, right? And that's what we've been using the Houston Airport System resources to build our spaceport. The first thing that we did in terms of construction was what we call phase one. Phase one of the spaceport is an area comprised of about 153 acres of land that until December of 2020 was nothing but a greenfield. There was nothing there, right? There was nothing, it had been like that, it was just land surrounding the Ellington Airport. And we decided that we were going to build our spaceport right there. We invested $21 million to bring in the infrastructure that is necessary for companies to be able to build their facilities at the spaceport, phase one. We brought water, we brought power, wastewater, fiber optics, all the necessary elements to allow for a company to be able to easily build at the spaceport. That's what we brought. And in December of 2020, we completed this construction. Immediately, the vision that we were building proved to be right. There's a company called Flight Safety International. This is a company that trains pilots. That's what they do. They train pilots. We were approached by the company. The company had made the decision to build their operations facility here at the spaceport. It was something about 200,000 square feet of space that we're building, about $200 million in investment that they were going to have. And we're really excited. Of course, you know what comes next after December of 2020. We are hit really, really hard by COVID, right? The aviation, the airline industry, right, suffers the most. And the company decides to withdraw their plans. And right now they are on hold. But we were very, very pleasantly surprised. We continued with that. Again, this is when we completed the construction of that infrastructure. Well, just last summer, it was June or July of 2021, we made the first big announcement for the Houston Spaceport. Not the first big, because it's connected to actual construction of the spaceport, right? Collins Aerospace, a company owned by the Raytheon company, right? Multi-billion company, saw fit, right? And saw that it was in the best interest to build their facility here in Houston, which means not just serving their existing workforce here in Houston, but being able to bring in new jobs, new projects to Houston. And so we announced that deal was complete. It was approved at the time by the City Council in the summer or spring of 2021. And today, as we speak, that building is under construction. By July 22nd, they estimate that they will be moving into that new facility. Again, it's music to our ears, right? Not only did they secure that new building under 9 acres, but they also went ahead and said, hey, we want to have an option for the land, another 9 acres next to us, again, because of what we see coming up and the connection that they see with the Houston Spaceport. Next, just last December, we got confirmation from City Council, we got confirmation from the company that I was describing, Intuitive Machines, that first company that joined the Houston Spaceport in 2016, that they will now need to move out of their existing facility, that first place that we offered to them, and they will need to build their own facility. Now they're building this 125,000 square foot facility that is just right next to where they are. The workforce today at about 125 people is estimated to go all the way up to 300 people by the time they get this operation moving. So again, that to illustrate, all the economics around the development of this infrastructure, the Houston Spaceport. And one that has to make you very proud is this most recent announcement. Just 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were able to move this again to City Council. We obtained their approval, And Axiom has now been able to position themselves to break ground in about 6 weeks from today to build their 400,000 square foot facility to build their space station. This company was awarded a contract from NASA to build that first commercial component, which is expected to go up to space in 2024, right? This guy's, again, just to show you the I guess the inner, work of what's going on here. 2 years ago, the company was maybe 10 people. I was told we're gonna begin hiring pretty soon. I was driving through Highway 3 there near the Houston Spaceport, and I saw these billboards, we're hiring, right? Today, this company is 400 people strong. 400 people strong. By the time they're at their peak here at the Houston Spaceport, they anticipate having 1,000 people working at the Houston Spaceport. And most importantly, of course, you can see it. Now, today, there are other contracts out there for potential development of space stations, but regardless, these guys, in my vision, they have the upper hand, right? They're already working on this, and hopefully they will be able, by the time the federal government decides to decommission this space station in 2030, I believe, is the date, they will be able to, move on and keep their operations. And again, us here in Houston, we maintain a very, very strong foothold in the space business, right? Here, this is an illustration of what I was showing you just a minute ago. This, as you can see, that's a phase 1 in that first quadrant. You see Collins Aerospace, that's the facility that they're building today. The end date, they're showing it as August 2022. That is right now pretty much standing up as you see it. Finishes and of course some other materials are still missing, but the delivery date for that first 120,000 square foot facility is August of 2022. On the right side of the screen, you can see Intuitive Machines, which is building 125,000. These guys have started to turn dirt at the spaceport. There's a lot of activity, a lot of machines, heavy machines doing the work, and they will be ending by May of 2022. These facilities, by the way, are pretty interesting. The way that we've been able to deal with the companies is, again, a pretty interesting one. In the case of Collins Aerospace, we were able to secure a 10,000 square foot space so that we can make it available for startups, for those small companies that want to come to Houston or that are here in Houston and want to do business but are not ready to, to get going because the resources are not there. Well, we have secured that space. We have it available to us and to those trying to be part of the business for the next 7 years, right? In the case of Intuitive Machines, we were able to secure a SCIF is one of those assets where the military is able to conduct business, right, in total confidentiality, right? And we're building that SCIF with the idea of, or with the vision of making sure that Houston is able to go after more DoD contracts, more government contracts, right? We believe that we need to have a piece of that business. Again, for years, I've received this document every week that shows what's going on across the U.S., right? And it never fails. Colorado, Florida, California, they've got Alabama. They're getting all this contracts, right? This construction, this manufacturing activity connected to all this contracts that are being assigned by the government. We believe that Houston has to get the right piece of that business, right? And that's why we are preparing our infrastructure to be able to do so. And then in the north part of this this drawing, you see Axiom, they are just about to begin construction. The end date is 2023. That is, though, by just the first phase, which is about 130,000 square foot. Their construction of 400,000 is going to take about 2 more years after 2023. Yes, sir.
Are you willing to answer a question right now?
Yes, sir.
It's quite long, but so Scott, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm going to try and, rather than me read your question and maybe butcher it, I'm going to give you speaking privileges, but just remember I can also cut you off. No, Scott, very well. Scott, so you should be able to speak now, so can you try speaking? We'll see, let you know if I can hear you.
Yes, thank you, David. And Arturo, you know, one of the things, it's one thing to have these anchor tenants. It's another to really build out the entire supply chain infrastructure for them. And I'm wondering, what are if we were to look at attracting this entire supplier base, what specifically would be the advantage of co-locating for them at the spaceport itself? Maybe you could talk about that.
You're very smart, Scott. That is great. I have to tell you, you know, that is precisely what we are today. All these 3 major developments, we see them as our anchor tenants, right? And the next stage of our development is one now that is dedicated to pursuing this supply, right? This support companies that will allow for these companies to operate here. As it is, you might know, Houston has a pretty strong base of that type of companies. But I can share with you, that as of today, I am entertaining a number of conversations with that type of companies that are working to find out what it's going to take to locate at the Houston Spaceport. Obviously, the first piece of the business here, and you know, part of the discussion that I have had with them, right, is one that, you know, while they're coming in here, they need to have certainty that they will have that customer. Well, most of these smaller companies that we're working with are talking to these large companies or larger companies, trying to establish agreements or contracts to, you know, to secure work for them. It's the only way in which it's going to make sense. At the end, it's pretty natural. This business now of space, it is you know, it's turning into a commercial one, right? And if you don't make money, you cannot pay the rent. So I believe, you know, we are preparing. We have made the investment to create the area where these smaller companies can come, right? It is also now part of their, I guess, their business to secure the business that they need to exist and to be able to establish themselves, whatever they want to be established at, right? But it is ongoing, Scott. Does that help?
Yeah, thanks. That's good. That's good. I think, you know, it's not just these anchor tenants, like you said, it just, it building out this entire infrastructure and making it attractive, not only for domestic firms, but other companies maybe that have been involved with the European Space Agency, and they want to try to be now in on this next wave. You know, what are we doing to really show them how valuable it is to be at the spaceport?
Yeah. No, that's you know, your point is really a very good one. And what we're doing, you know, we have I guess a number of activities that we are you know, being part of, you know, to network, to exchange information, to work with you know, with the consuls, the consulates of the, you know, the foreign countries that we have here in Houston. We travel abroad also, as David was just describing a minute ago. We are really, you know, into, I guess, this commercial mission with the idea that you know, we will have to do more than just attracting those anchor tenants. And so it is you know, the footprint is there. We have it well understood, and I think we have, more big things coming up. By the way, and just so for your knowledge and everybody's knowledge, this, as I'm talking about these three companies, the conversations with other very large companies are taking place today, right? Not at liberty of discussing names right now, but the point is we continue to generate, interest. And the way I see it, it is, I guess, a very, very logic development. It's all connected to the fact that the Houston Spaceport really is located in the middle of, a very large, the fourth largest city in the U.S., one of the largest cities in the world, right? One that is been working hard for many, many years, over 100 years, in creating the infrastructure that we have. We have the roadways, we have the airports, we have the Port of Houston, we have the railways, we have the universities that produce the most important part, which is the talent, right? And obviously, companies and those, again, in the commercial arena, those, doing business are seeing it, right? And that's why they're looking at Houston. Then, of course, we're so fortunate of being home to Johnson Space Center. Johnson Space Center, it's an institution that for many years, has put Houston, forefront of space, right? We have a place at the table. Johnson Space Center, it's not just history, right? It's actual resources. It's actual money. There's $5.5–6 billion that come in through Johnson Space Center every year. That's a big amount of money, right? And again, companies are looking at Houston because of all the assets, all the resources that we have here.
Arturo, can I add one thing, Scott? I hope you can hear me about the international side of things. Is we were actually supposed to be joined by the Honourable Valerie Baraban tonight, who's the fairly new Consul General from France. She was really keen to be here. Unfortunately, some things at home kind of prevented her coming. She is online, so good to see you, Valerie. At least see your name. There is an increased interest in Houston from a number of countries around the world. We're actively talking to maybe 15, 16 different countries. And I believe a lot of that has to do not just with the presence of the Johnson Space Center, because that's been there for a long time, but the growth that's happening at the spaceport. And Scott is he heads one of our working groups for the GHP, but so he knows some of this. But this is something that's exciting a lot of us, and just the ramp up in the last year or so has been phenomenal. And again, the spaceport, I think, is at the heart of a lot of that interest.
Thank you. Let me make a parenthesis. You made me think as we were talking Johnson Space Center. This is I guess a personal anecdote that I have to share. I like to share with most people, right? This is what happened to me back in 2019, 2018. I was speaking a lot to Buzz Aldrin, right? Second man on the moon. He was traveling to Houston, and we met, in occasion to talk about things. This time, July 3rd of 2019, he came to my office and we were talking. He has some interest in one day having an institute at the Houston Spaceport, right? So while he was here, I said, hey, boss, I bet you have a bunch of memories connected to Ellington. Would you like to go and check out the airfield? He said, yeah, I'd love to do that, right? So I got him in my operations truck, right, and we went out. We're driving through the ramp. We got to the area where NASA, Johnson, keeps their base of 22 T-38s, those trainers that they use for transport and training. Anyhow, I said, I bet you did your share of flying on those. I said, oh, yeah. He says, in fact, I remember one day in the summer of 1969, the moment he said that, I put my car in park, right? I said, I gotta listen to this, right? And I was just excited. I mean, I don't care, it's so exciting, to hear from the man, right? It's so good. He says, I got one of these. I flew to Patrick's Air Force Base outside of Cocoa Beach, right? Landed there, rented a car, and I went to the Cape. He says, next thing you know, I'm sitting on top of a rocket going to the moon. And I'm just listening there, like, fascinated. 3 days later, he says, I'm walking on the moon. Oh my God. And then three days later, I'm splashing down with my crew at the Pacific Ocean. And the Navy ship came and picked us up, right? They took us to Honolulu. From there, they shipped us to California and then back to Houston. Next thing you know, he says, I'm completing an expense report for $33.81. And he hits his forehead and he says, federal government. and he asked me, you know what that was for? And I have been paying attention, right? But he just, no, what was that for? Oh, it's for the rental car, he says, right? He had to pay for the rental car. And so I listened to this story, I was fascinated, right? Long story short, you can go and look it up online. There is a copy now of his expense report showing that the concept is Houston to the moon, back to Houston. Yeah, he had to pay for that. But think about it. Think about, I told you that story because it's fun, right? It is a lot of fun. But think about how things have changed. Think about how things have changed. Can you imagine today, letting one of our astronauts move on his own, right? Rent a car just before he's going to the moon, risking getting hit by a car, risking getting sick by whatever, right? No, we won't do that. Things have changed big time. And so, again, what we're seeing right now also is that we're at that inflection point in which things are changing from, just being the dominion of federal government, those, I guess, heavily trained, federal people that could work in space. Now we have people like you and I, right? People like our children, right? If they want to do so. They now can pretty easily get in this business. So ask them again. Ask them. They'll be ready by 2023 with their first large facility. They expect to receive in May of 2023 the first module for space station. As we speak, that module is being welded by Ellington in Italy. It'll be landing at Ellington by means of the Beluga aircraft. And then they bring it into their facility, and they finish doing all the work. And in 2024, they take it to the Cape to go up in one of the SpaceX cargo vehicles to be connected to space station. So again, this is happening at the Houston Spaceport. It's like, again, to me, really, it is a dream come true, right? I really, I believe 100%. And don't see me wrong, right? I believe 100% since day one. Otherwise, I would not have been connected to this. But to see the progress and to see it that fast, right? To having the Houston Spaceport solidified that fast, it's so gratifying. Other business, I was talking about startups. This is one called Venus Aerospace. This couple that you see, they're husband and wife. About a year and a half ago, they called from California. They said, hey, we're in California. We've heard about what's going on at the Houston Spaceport, what's going to happen. We're thinking about leaving California because it is getting really hard to do business in California. I said, welcome, come to Texas, right? We have a place for you. They moved. Again, it was a couple. Today, they're working out of Ellington. Yet they're not positioned yet at the spaceport. They have leased hangar space. Their workforce has grown to 30 people, and they're working on hypersonic technology. Hypersonic, again, the kind of things that you thought, were not going to be happening are happening now at the Houston Spaceport. The experts give a lot of credit to the plans that this company has. So who knows? We might, again, be home to that first company that is able to break hypersonic travel, right? And we should welcome that. Along with all the good stuff that is happening at the Houston Spaceport, the federal government sees the need to also, I guess, improve the presence of Ellington. I don't know if many of you have been at Ellington or not. We have been, or NASA Johnson has been operating there since the early 1960s. They have some old facilities. And they they saw the need to get better facilities. So they decided that they were going to build this aircraft logistics operations facility. We sold three old warehouses from the 1940s, back to the war, right? We sold it to them just last December, 2 months ago, right? And they're getting ready now to build this large facility. It's going to be a 65,000 square foot facility again. Big investment by NASA. That's the kind of stuff that the Houston Spaceport is promoting now and is making possible, right? The Aerospace and Aviation Training Institute, this is an augmented version of what I described for San Jacinto, the Edge. We're talking to the universities like Rice University, Texas A&M, TSU, University of Houston, Clear Lake. We're talking to them to see if we can come up with a plan, with a strategy to come together and augment the presence that they have at the spaceport to be able to train and educate the workforce of the future. Our investments, this is another big investment that we have on the books. We're in the process of procuring the construction, the design and construction of a full-length taxiway along runway 42, an investment that is valued about $135 million, big chunk of money. What I see positive again, well, it is necessary for the operations of the airport and the spaceport, and again, all this money will be spent here in Houston, right? Generating jobs, generating economic activity, which is, part of the vision and the mission that we have for us. This project should start by September of this year. Not sure if we're going to be able to do the entire taxiway at first, depending on the resources that we're able to secure from our partners in federal government, state government, right? But at least we will do the first segment, which is the one that we need to connect Axiom to the runway infrastructure, right? This is what I already talked about. We have done this process in a very diligent manner. That's the timeline of what we've done. Again, we started with studies. It was not just, an idea that I guess we said, hey, this is a great idea, let's just move on. We touched on a number of different elements, right? And consulted the smart people, smart resources to make sure that this business made sense for Houston. And here we are now. As you move through the timeline, you see how the first part was those studies. Then what you see in orange, that was the process. We took a little bit under 2 years to license our spaceport, which, by the way, is also record time. Most spaceports around the nation, commercial spaceports, there are 13 today. The one that comes closest to us took about 7 years to do it. We did it under 2 years. Again, why? Because we saw that commercial end of the business, right? If we were not able to do it in 2 years, 7 years later, people would be so tired, right? You would be, I guess, not pretty happy listening to me saying that we were planning to get a license, right? In a few years from now. So that is happening along the way. We have done investments, what you see in blue, not just us, not just, city money, but private money. The Lone Star Flight Museum invested $40 million. Commercial business operators that are doing flight activity have come to Ellington. So there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of private money that has come. And now, in the past year and a half, again, we've reached what I described a minute ago as a tipping point now. Things are happening now. Companies are talking to us to get, oops, what did I do? To get their business hopefully here. So far, this is just in numbers to give you an idea. In about 2 years, by the time that everything is done, just with this anchor tenants that Scott was describing just a minute ago, we will have 1,500 jobs here in the Houston Spaceport. So far, we've invested about $100 million. Again, not just government money, but it's private money here, which makes me feel really good because everybody's putting their fair share, right? And then by the time the construction in 2 years ends, this first three facilities, there will be about $300 million of investment coming to Houston, right? This is really good. We are, achieving that goal of becoming really attractive for companies. This is a statement by Federal Aviation Administration. Federal Aviation Administration in 2014 was still struggling with taking in the responsibilities of space, aerospace, and with more aviation. That's what we do, right? There's obviously that clear intersection between the two activities. And today, this is part of the 2020 report. You can clearly see where they say the commercial space launches and unmanned aircraft systems are rapidly expanding industries. The inclusion of this category in in future economic impact studies will provide an even more robust picture. So they're taking it now, right? They are taking that, and that is really good because all I guess levels of government are vested, right, in this spaceport development across the nation. Today, just to close my presentation here, we have 100 people coming to Ellington, and this is something really interesting. Some come to visit our museum, which we have there, right? Some come to go to school, some come to fly airplanes, and some are building spacecraft right now at the spaceport. It is really, really positive news for Houston, right? They are each one of them, of course, doing their part, helping our community. And again, we are very, very positive about what's going on in Houston. We are very appreciative of you guys, the community, because without the support of the community, right, things stop. I'll tell you, things stop. And when we got our vision for this spaceport, we had our first environmental study. People came to provide comments, and what we saw was unbelievable. People in the Houston and Ellington area were saying, "Hey, why don't we send vertical rockets? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that?" Everybody has been supportive. Other places across the U.S. don't have the same type of support. They're struggling. That's why most other spaceports take 6-7 years to be able to get their license if they're able to do it. In the case of Houston, we were able to do it really quick. And today we are, of course, the beneficiaries of a great amount of development. Thank you guys for attending the RISE Houston Spaceport Lecture Series. It's you guys, again, with us since, I don't know, at least I can tell you 2013.
So I was just going to say, yeah, this, if we had been able to get you in January, it would have been the 10th anniversary of the lectures, but we did our own thing for the first year, and then you guys came in 2013. So it's been 10 years we've been running these lectures.
Thank you all. Thank you for being here. And if you have any questions, hey, please feel free to ask.
And if you're online, please just let me know, and I'll give you the mic.
Let me get
Any
started.
questions here? Yes, please.
Do you want me to wait for the microphone or just?
I think these mics will pick you up.
Okay, perfect. Hi, Arturo. Thank you for your presentation. It was great. And you've kind of already touched on this, but just to get a more concise answer, pre-pandemic, there was a lot of concern about there being oversaturation in the market as cities were creating spaceports, especially those with horizontal launch capabilities or vertical. And so a question that I get often is, what is Houston Spaceport's comparative advantage? So in your opinion.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking when you said saturation, are you saying the U.S. perspective of saying we have way too many spaceports and not so many operators?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or less, or even on Google.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair point. That is a fair point. That's why, again, as we started putting our business case together, it was one that kind of detached in a way, right? We are licensed to operate as a spaceport, supporting horizontal flights, right? But, our business case is one that has been connected to all this manufacturing, all this development, research, work that it's necessary to allow us to one day be able to fly to space or through space the way we do today with aviation, right? And so we strongly believe, right, that we have all the room in the world to open up our city, right, our spaceport to companies coming to do that kind of business here. Whenever they're ready to fly, they'll come flying here. I'll tell you, my background is connected to aviation. I've been working with commercial operators, airlines. I've been working with private aviation. I've been doing all sort of aviation, right? And what I can tell you, planes move. Well, number one, to where there's business, right? They have to go. They move to where there is, I guess, a need, right? And we anticipate that that's what's going to happen. The connection to I guess, see if this, makes sense. This is not connected directly to the spaceport, but just about 2 weeks ago, the Air Force made an announcement that they were granting $105 million to SpaceX for them to look into point-to-point transportation using the VFR, the big rocket that they're building out of Boca Chica, right? Can you imagine? Can you imagine that kind of stuff? Again, for us, I believe that as it is, I believe that we have a part, again, because of the location that we have, because of the transportation hub that Houston is, because of the human resources producer that Houston is. I believe that we no matter what, we get part of that business, right? So we're not that we're not worried. We worry about everything, of course, but we don't believe that we're one of too many, right?
So before we go on, I get to boast a little bit because these two grads, Swati and Rachel, are two graduates of our professional masters in space studies that we created around about the same time as I took over as the director of the Rice Space Institute from the founding director, who I just spotted, who's been sitting behind me this whole time. Professor Patricia Rice created RSI. And at the back here, we have a bunch of current PSM students. Maya, I thought you were supposed to be in class. But I'll continue my book because we have a question online, and the question online is from yet another of our existing professional master's students. So Anand, I'm going to allow you to talk. If you'd like to ask Arturo your question, you should be able to speak now. Anand?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, that was a great lecture, and thank you so much for that. I wanted to know, since I'm an international student, does the Houston Spaceport and all the companies in that generate jobs for non-US citizens too, or are most of the jobs targeted towards the US citizens only?
Well, what I've seen so far, depending on I guess what area of the company, and what type of missions and developments are taking place, I think that there's going to be a room for others, not just the U.S. citizens, but U.S. residents, right? I believe that the room is going to be available. Of course, that there are certain activities that are by federal regulation restricted to just U.S. citizens, right?
I think I would add to that, Anand, that right now a lot of the funding comes from the federal government, and that's where there's very strong restrictions. But as we mentioned earlier, and for those of you online, you saw the message from the Consul General of France, there's a real interest in foreign companies coming here. And if they're purely commercial, they obviously would like to connect to NASA, but if they're purely commercial, the rules are a little bit different. And so they're hoping that would open up the workforce to a broader range of categories. It's something, as you know, that we're very actively trying to work on as part of this program that you're in. But it is an important point, because I was going to ask about the international connection too, because just to follow that up, maybe not the job side, but maybe you could comment about a little bit on, we're focused on the 13 commercial spaceports for the United States. This is an increasing activity worldwide, and perhaps you could maybe comment on some of those aspects and how Houston is engaging.
Yeah, the fact is, of course, that as space continues to commercialize, it's not just the U.S. that is realizing that this is a business, right? Many other countries are really targeting space as a potential source of business for them too, right? And we belong to an organization called the GSA, the Global Spaceport Alliance. This organization brings together spaceports around the world, or look, countries around the world that are looking at building this type of infrastructure, right? And it is just, it is just very positive to see the conversations that are taking place. I believe that as we continue to progress, right, we're going to change a lot of the rules that we have. And again, depending on who the client is, I believe there's room for everyone in the business, in the space business.
We have Morgan, you have your hand up, so I presume that means you have a question. So I'm going to allow you to talk, and hopefully you should be able now if you want to ask your question of Arturo. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Morgan, are you there? Morgan, okay. Well, while we're waiting for you, Morgan, Pat, please.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that your main runway 422 is 8,001 feet. I mean, when we're going to supersonic and Virgin Galactic, is that going to be long enough for the foreseeable future?
We have, the main runway actually is 1735. 17 right is right now 9,000. And we have secured the land, and we have the ability to expand that all the way to 12,000 with 1,000 overrun in each end of the runway. So today is actually 9 plus 1,000 and 1,000 in each end, but we can move it all the way to 12,000.
So
Yeah.
You can't land it.
Yeah, that would be a problem, right? Although again, talking about, doing business in a very methodic way, right? I'm not an expert, right? But in this part, we had Spaceport America. They built their facility, right, at $250 million. They built a 10,000 foot runway. And before Virgin Galactic was flying, right, they said, well, we actually need 12,000. So they added the 12,000 back in 2014. And from what I've seen in operations, you can easily do, with the 10,000, right? So technology is ever changing right now. And that's why we got to be very careful in how we move ahead with investment in infrastructure, right? Again, we're going into this commercial mode where we need to recover the investment, right?
So, and I mean, while I'm waiting for maybe one more question, one of the things that I think that we should be proudest of what these guys are doing is, Swathi's gone, but as Swathi said, there's a competition here, but the business model is in Houston is being emulated, and people are coming from around the world to see how they do it in Houston because of the skin in the game approach. So rather than building a hangar and saying, hey, we've got a big hangar space for you to come and use, please come and bring your workforce with you, then they could come, take advantage of the money being provided by Houston, and then get a better deal the next year and leave. Here they have to come, if they're going to be at the spaceport, they have to have some skin in the game. They'll get some help, they'll get some incentives, but they have to put money in. They have to pay for the building, or at least they have to pay back for the city for the building of the building. That means they'll be here for a lot longer. And then for help, they're invested in growing Houston Spaceport to grow their own business. And so really these, Arturo and his team and Mario and the HES deserve a lot of credit for not just the vision of the spaceport, but the implementation of that vision and the smart way they're going about it. And so I think we're really lucky to have that, and we're seeing the fruit. It's been a bit longer for me. Just waiting for 6 years seems a long time. But it's really great to see it all coming together. If there's no, oh yes, sir, please. No, please.
And I've happily drunk your wine, thank you very much. I just want to say congratulations, because I was very skeptical of you, and I just couldn't see how you were going to bring it together, and this is fantastic.
Well, I'd love to hear your comment, because again, yeah, I totally understand it, right? What are you talking about, spaceport, right? What is it that we're doing, right? you know, once we, you know, I guess, once we are able to see, you know, how we're doing it, it just makes all the sense. It makes all the sense, right? Yes, sir.
Arturo, what are you doing to prepare for cryogenic refueling of rockets from a space station around Earth or on the gateway around the moon?
Yeah, oh, that's a question that is a little bit outside of my,
Yeah, well, it was published that SpaceX intends to refuel, I suppose, an upper stage in orbit, probably with methane and liquid oxygen. You might talk to the folks at Boca Chica about what they need.
Yep, yeah, no, I'm sure that there's a number of unanswered questions, but I'm sure, you know, as we, you know, we move ahead with all of that research, that work, right?
Yeah,
We're gonna answer.
Comparative machines, I think, is using the same fuel.
Yep,
that
yeah, liquid oxygen
SpaceX
and methane.
is using. And I was wondering, is this a small scale imitation of what was going on?
It is a, yeah, it is a smaller scale that what they have, they, you know, they're,
that could be the key to something really big for spaceport.
yes.
Well, there's a big, I'll make a promise now to sometime, maybe in the fall if we can do it, is get some folks to come in and talk about cislunar infrastructure and the cislunar economy, because there's a lot of talk about if we're going to go mine water on the moon, what do you do with it? And there's a lot of things you can do with it, including the ability to not only refuel.
Bad idea. Water is the universal solvent. Leave it for the chemical plants. You leave it for collecting energy from cosmic rays. That thing, like Ice Cube, only.
No. But water is basically hydrogen and oxygen, which are two rocket fuels. So oxygen.
Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Leave it there.
That's a big.
Do stuff with it.
So there's, like I said, I will arrange for a speaker. Yeah, it won't be me. Now that I know what the questions are going to be, I'll arrange for a speaker to talk about what's going on in some of these ideas. There's a whole suite of ideas about how we use resources on the moon to benefit the Earth, but also to benefit space exploration. Again, I could talk at length about some of the things that we're getting involved in, but it is an important topic. It's an increasingly, it's a topic that's been increasingly discussed, especially now that NASA is partnering more with commercial entities like Intuitive Machines to sort of create a sustainable presence at the moon. A sustainable presence means a Starbucks, right? A sustainable presence means you have to be able to not constantly rely on the Earth eventually. And so this is some really, really interesting conversations, opportunities for commercial companies. And Jim, you can have the last questions.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to really thank this trio here. It's just so wonderful to see this. I mean, we're in the center of the universe for the future, right here. I want to thank all three of you for everything. And tengo una pregunta por usted. Mucho gusto, bienvenido. It's a privilege to have you here. Where did you get the origin of your confidence so many years ago? You said from the very beginning you had confidence. Where did that come from?
Well, it is just connected again to the fact that I, you know, in my mind, I've seen what others have done, building this infrastructure in isolation, right? Remote places that you say, how are you going to be able to achieve that commercial end of the business? How do you do it without having the people, without having the resources? We have it here in Houston. When I heard it, really, it was Pam Melroy. Today, she's the second in command at NASA. She's the person that I consulted with back in 2013 about, do we have a chance, right? And Pam said, you know, when I described the plans that we had, you know, I said, we are going to build it little by little, right? We're not going to focus in operations the way that others have. I said, can we still aspire to have a license? And she looked at a group of 12 people right there, right there. And she says, oh, you know what? In fact, we prefer it that way. That's what I got. That moment I said, hey, we can do it in Houston.
Cervantes dice, poco a poco se andas lejos.
There you go. Yes, sir. That's right.
All right, so you know the tagline by now? You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. Thanks again for those of you online and for those of you here in person. March 24th is our next one. It's going to be in a different venue because of some booking. It's going to be, well, watch the email. It's the building that way a little bit. Because it's not right next to Valhalla, we'll probably do a little reception thing. So again, you're on the mailing list. You'll find out about it. We'll give you plenty of notice. Andrew Abercrombie from NASA. So again, thank you, and please join me in thanking Arturo.
Thank you again for giving me some of your time today. I know, there's other stuff going on, so thank you.
See you guys. Guys online, thank you. I'm going to shut you.